Hockey Helps the Homeless Durham region is here. Lace up your skates and join us on April 12th to support Blue Door, Durham Youth Services, and Backdoor Mission. Since 1996, Hockey Helps the Homeless has been leveraging Canada's love for hockey to raise awareness and funds for people experiencing homelessness. By signing up and fundraising, you'll enjoy some fantastic hockey action alongside hockey pros and support our most vulnerable neighbors. Whether you're a player, a fan, or someone who wants to make a difference, join us and together we can create a brighter future for Durham Region. For more details and to sign up to play, volunteer, or sponsor the Durham Region Tournament, visit hockeyhelpsthehomeless.com. Let's make a difference one goal at a time.
You're listening to On the Way Home with your host, Michael Braithwaite.
I love our theme song. I don't know. I mean, we've had it for a bit. We had someone design it for us. He did an incredible job. I don't know. It's your work. It's great. Welcome to On the Way Home. I'm your host, Michael Braithwaite, working with the fabulous 150 people who make up Blue Door, who do the heavy lifting and saving lives, giving people a step forward in their housing journey, their health journey, their employment journey. Check us out at bluedoor.ca to see all the wonderful, cool, and innovative stuff that we're doing. For many social service agencies, we have now kind of stepped into housing development as well. It's a wonderful and wacky new world, but it's, with the numbers growing, we need to step up like many nonprofits have across the country, around the world, to provide that housing. We're doing that work. So check it out, bluedoor.ca. Hey, today we have two of my favorite people, because they are in my region, and I love celebrating what's happening where we work as well. So we have Clovis Grant, who's the CEO of 360 Kids. He's been in this sector for years and years. Previously, he's been now with 360 for about 8 years. Previously with Eva's in Toronto, which is wonderful work with youth homelessness. So just in the youth homelessness sector for a long, long time. And as well, we're joined by Tahirah Simmons. Tahirah's been doing this work a long time. Is such an impactful and wonderful leader. During the day, she manages the operations of 360's community housing programs and much, much more. And she's done all sorts of different things at 360 Kids and beyond. We have two exceptional leaders, and they saw a gap, and they were looking at data, which we all use, and they looked at the data and saw that although there's a small percentage of Black youth across York region, the percentage of people, the gap between that and 14%, so I think it was 3 or 4% they said, but it was 14% of the makeup of people experiencing homelessness were Black. And so overrepresented, underserved, and Clovis really was like, hey, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And not only did he want to do this, but he talks about that personal responsibility as a Black leader to kind of step up and do that. They've done that. They've developed this Black youth housing model. And he talks about how it wasn't just, hey, I have an idea, let's do this. Clovis and Tahirah did the research, did the work, did the legwork, really brought in all aspects of the Black community, talked to researchers and youth themselves and Black leading organizations, and really kind of put together this program that they hope will really serve Black youth facing homelessness well and act as a preventative type of program where they can stay for 3 years. So they've purchased a house, and it's even around housing design and all the different pieces around helping them with finances, etc., all the different pieces. So they've got this set up, ready to launch, with the idea of kind of gathering the research of how it's going to work for youth, and then sharing that and really hopefully scaling this program and creating better access for Black youth in need of housing and supports. It's an incredible initiative. It's needed, and I think many of us have known it's been needed for a long time, but here's a group at 360 that are stepping up and doing the work, and hopefully something that can be shared and scaled across our great country, around the world. So listen, you need to listen to this podcast. Two brilliant leaders doing incredible, impactful work. Let's go to that conversation now. Clovis and Tahirah, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Can't wait to chat with you about this wonderful new initiative.
Well, looking forward to the conversation.
Happy to be here too.
Yeah, great to have you, Tahirah. I've worked with both of these wonderful individuals who do incredible and innovative and important, impactful work in York region. Clovis, you've been on the podcast many times. I think at some point we're going to have to get you your 5-timer robe.
Looking forward to that too.
To wear. But so you've had some practice of this question. So we're going to let Tahirah go first, and we ask that question. I'm going to actually do it a little different for you, Clovis, because you have answered it. And not to throw you off, but I think hopefully it will come natural. So for Tahirah, the question to you is, what does home mean to you? And for Clovis, I want you to talk about your earliest memories of home. When you think back, what are your first memories of home as far back as you could go? So Tahirah, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, for me, home means safety, a place that I can always land, a place to learn, a place to grow. That's totally sounds like our license plate. But yes. So all of these things, and a place that nurtures.
Beautifully said.
Okay. And for me, so I spent most of my early years in Jamaica, and I came to Canada when I was 9 years old. And so when I think about my earliest memories, it would be that freedom, that like no worries, no issues. You're just free, lots of laughter, and lots of people around. So I grew up with a lot of my cousins, my aunts. So we're sort of all living together. And so, home was that sense of, if I can use the word family, where it's just a lot of people and a lot of fun and just safety.
Do you remember, Clovis, when I think of that 9 years growing up in Jamaica, do you have earliest memories of winter? Like, what the heck is going on? And what is this? Why would anyone want to live here?
It's interesting you say that, because no winter in Jamaica. Winter in Jamaica is like 15 degrees. That's cold. That's Celsius. But coming here, and I remember in the 70s, when we actually had snow in the Greater Toronto area. And so what happened over the last week here reminded me of those early days of, holy smokes, why am I here? But I enjoy the snow.
Very, very crazy. And it's funny to hear when you were saying that place to grow from my childhood. It was a place to live, a place to grow, Ontario area.
Yeah.
But there's a reason. That's why they're calling it home, right? So it's
oh my goodness.
It gets stuck in your head.
It totally is.
So thinking back to both your journeys into this sector, I think I often talk about the fact that, this is not a sector in grade 3 or 4 where you're like, when I grow up, I'm going to be, involved in housing and homelessness or social service sector, right? It wasn't there. So it's interesting always to hear how people landed there. So Tahirah, we'll start with you on your journey into the sector, and then Clovis, will go to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I was growing up, I wanted to be an interpreter for the UN. Like, that was my goal. It was like up until like undergrad, like I was still on track to go after that. Then I think there was this one incident that happened where an interpreter was killed, and I'm like, oh, that's morbid. Maybe not. A little macabre, but it just kind of jolted me. And I didn't change majors, but I decided to take some other courses in human services, and the rest, as we know, is history. So from the ages of like 23 up until now, that's kind of where things have landed for me career-wise. Yeah. Amazing.
And it's still on the path of doing good, right? Of
Yes.
giving back, that kind of
Yes.
thing. So we're so glad
Yes.
you're in this sector.
Yeah.
Well, I love the ambition. I actually have always been in the human services. I guess my journey started with volunteering. Because I knew that my interest was always in human services.
Mhm.
I started volunteering, and my first experience at real volunteering was at, it's now CAMH, but it was Queen Street Mental Health Center. So many people might remember that. And I was exposed to folks who had mental illness, and that experience made me say to myself, I want to cure schizophrenia. Now, I didn't really fully understand what all that went behind it, but that was the drive that led me to studying psychology. And when I graduated, and after a few years of volunteering, I realized that was a pretty noble task to cure schizophrenia, and I still had a deep interest in that work. But I did start working for the government, and I actually fell in love with employment. I worked in social services, then I started working in employment, and I loved the opportunity to give people jobs and help people find jobs. And when I left government, I went, and that was how I actually connected with homelessness. I actually became the manager of homelessness, of employment at EVA's initiatives. Many people might know EVA's. And so that was where I got the intersection between employment and homelessness. And well, to borrow your phrase, the rest is history. I spent 14 years at EVA's, and here I am almost 8 years at 360 Kids now.
Incredible. And on that, that's a great tangent into it. Tell us a little bit about 360 Kids for listeners across the country, around the world. What is it? What do you do?
Yeah, it's really all about youth. I think our name speaks volumes to what we do. It's that 360-degree wraparound supports to young people who are homeless or at risk of homelessness. And really a lot of our focus now, just looking at the research and hearing from young people, that we need to do so much more around homelessness prevention. So while, of course, we need to intervene, and so we do provide a range of services, we bucket them into like 4 areas of housing, employment, education, and health and well-being. And so, yes, we wrap all of those supports around young people, but more and more just working with community and the young people themselves in looking at what can we do differently to prevent young people, more and more young people, from coming into homelessness, while at the same time providing that intervention support when they do become homeless.
Yeah, and this work is done through York Region, a little bit of Durham as well.
Well, actually, we our primary area is York Region, but through programs like our Night Stop program, we are having a more regional and at some point a national focus, because we are the sole accreditors for the Night Stop program, which is a really innovative housing program from the UK that we're able to support other organizations, such as one in Durham, where we actually, working with community hosts, provide temporary housing solutions for young people. And it's those kinds of things that we need to do to be able to work on the prevention front, because we certainly can't build enough housing for folks. So looking at those kinds of models is helpful. But yes, our catchment is primarily York Region, but certainly programs like Night Stop, we can expand across the country.
So York Region is for listeners not familiar with Ontario, the GTA. It's just north of the GTA, 9 different municipalities, very, very large geographically. One of the challenges too, of course, is that when you're spread out that geographically, not only is homelessness, say youth homelessness, maybe less visible, but transportation, all the different problems challenges, I should say, that come with it. I remember back when 360 Kids changed its name from Pathway to 360 Kids. People were like, well, if it's 360, don't they end up in the same spot they started? But I said, look, 180 Kids doesn't have the same ring. But it's about the wraparound, the three. Okay, I get it. Right. So it's a wonderful, wonderful name. And you're doing all sorts of incredible work, as you've outlined. But recently, you have led work around Black youth housing. Can you tell us about how that came about and why?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one. I would say that it started with looking at data. We, for years, for those who are not aware, there is a national homeless count that happens every 2 years. And so looking at the data, you start to see patterns, and we have seen over the last number of years an overrepresentation of Black youth in homelessness, and Black people in general in homelessness. And Just for perspective, in York Region, Black individuals comprise of about less than 3% of the population. But when we look at homelessness data, we're seeing upwards of 14%. So it's a 3-4-fold variance in terms of what the population data should look like. And so that put us also on a journey of looking at our own program as an organization. And whereas in the past we weren't collecting demographic data, we started doing that, and we also started seeing a pattern in terms of who was in our programs, and we're seeing the overrepresentation, even to in some programs upwards of 25% of youth who are Black accessing our program. So that made us think, holy smokes, what are we going to do about this? And if we are in our strategic focus as an organization, we're about prevention, we need to look at these very specific groups of individuals who are coming into homelessness. And so, as a Black individual myself, it became also very personal because, here I am, a leader in this space, and I need to have I needed to do something, to help address something that my people were experiencing. So yeah, the data spoke. The personal connection was there as well, and I started doing my own little bit of research and started realizing that I needed lots of advice. And so I spoke to as many people in this space, from folks at Wood Green, folks at EVA's, Dr. McKenzie at Wellesley, Lieben, Geber Michael at Taibu, Don Alexander from the SAPACY program at CAMH, like anybody who was in this space doing work to support the Black community. I started asking questions, and I started to realize that there was not a lot of work specifically around youth homelessness, Black youth homelessness and housing. And so I said, okay, well, I think I need to do something about that. And so looking at the data, then looking, being driven personally, then actually getting the advice. And then the last bit was getting support. Looking at, I had conversations with folks at United Way, Christine Hill, and just to talk about the idea that I had, and then connecting with the Black community in York Region, because I wanted this to be embedded within the Black community. And just with all of that, an idea started to wrap in my head, talking internally. We were successful in getting the funding from the region, from the United Way. And that funding allowed us to do a number of things. First, it was to buy a house, because we needed the capital, we needed bricks and mortars to house the youth. We also were very intentional about making sure that we, as an organization, could incubate this work. And so being able to have the staffing in place to be able to do that. So the funding allowed that as well. And importantly, and I think Tahirah might speak more about the research piece that we did, but because we didn't see a lot in this space around unhoused youth who are Black across the country, we said, let's do a research initiative so that we what we did not want to do was just to have a house, throw a bunch of young people in there and say, that's our Black youth housing. We were very intentional about what do young people need? We go back to the prevention. What is driving young people, Black youth, into homelessness? How can we, in this model, in this housing model, create a model that can actually address those factors? And so that was the intentionality around the model itself, and making it grounded in community. So really, that's how it came together. And we were grateful for all the different advisory folks. So the folks from NACA, YRAC, York Region Alliance of African Canadian Communities, Anchor, a number of different individuals, Black individuals in the community, all are part of our advisory group, Logical Outcomes, who did the research, and just really a great team at 360 Kids to help move this work along. And so we're in the process of developing that model now, and we're excited about being able to share this work.
So you identified the gap, right? Here's the gap, and said here's possible solutions. You got the funding. You did, you talked to people. You got buy-in from everyone in the community at different aspects of it. You're ready to roll. That's you said. So that's the beginning of it. Now is the doing. How did you go to How did kind of the housing model? What does that look like? What did the research? What did all that consultation tell you?
Tahirah, I'll hand that to you.
Sure, I totally can share a little bit about that. So, the research told us a few things about what youth needed from a Black youth housing project, if that were to happen. And they had 9 recommendations that they were really clear about, that they felt was necessary in order to move forward and in order to mitigate the instances of homelessness after the fact. Um, I'm just going to list a couple of them. One of the recommendations talked about the physical space, the environment, like where is this house going to be located. Another one spoke to intentional programming around financial literacy, mentorship. Another recommendation wanted to tackle access to mental health supports, um, having enough space in the house, right? So not being in an overcrowded situation. Um, so I mean, when I think about the recommendations, honestly, these are things that I believe that every human being should have access to. So they were neither outlandish, unreasonable. I think anyone would want any of these 9 recommendations to be able to live and thrive and to feel like they are part of community. I think what's really cool is that we do have another transitional housing program aptly called Transitions, which we has been around for about 7 to 8 years. And a lot of the programming and intentionality that is already embedded into the Transitions program are things that the youth have identified as being things that they need. So I don't know if we knew what we were doing in Transitions was a fantastic thing and it would translate into this new project, but it really has, and it's just made building the program plan and the operationalization of this program a really great experience, because half of the work has been done in our transitional housing model Transitions.
Yeah. And the piece that I would add in addition to Tahirah's point is just the intentionality around connecting
Yes.
the Black youth with the Black community,
Yes.
because they're such a minority in the region. Being able to connect them with people who looked like them, people who were in professional services. Really, the program that Tahirah is talking about is providing models for them for what success could look like. Because oftentimes, when you're dealing with anti-Black racism, you're dealing with the isolation that Tahirah flagged, the you're not good enough and you can't, and so surrounding them with models in the community. And this is where our advisory group has been really helpful in giving us input and advice in terms of how do we make sure that there is that 360-degree wraparound support that says, yeah, we've done a great job with our transitions program. The piece that we really need to look at is how do we then disrupt the anti-Black racism.
Yes.
We can't do that for all of society, but certainly we can do something within the program to help address that need.
Well, Tahirah mentioned something right away, and when we look at a lot of these things that we saw during COVID is talking about equity through access, right? So when you talk about location, is that for Black youth, the access to housing, health, care services is not always equitable, right? So I see you're doing some of that with this housing as well, opening up that access so it's easier too, and with a wraparound support. So walk me through what this is going to look like, right? So youth comes in. How many youth in the house? How does it work? How long can they stay? What do they pay? What are the services attached to it? And what is the hopeful outcome moving
All
forward?
right. Yeah. So the youth will have access to this program for up to 3 years. And the goal is one of the goals is to help them to build capacity to meet market rent, but additionally offering them opportunities like Clovis flagged, that really help to disrupt experiences with anti-Black racism, and opportunities where they get to build. So whether it would be self-esteem, intentional building around financial literacy, not just around balancing your checkbook or balancing your budget, but really getting to have conversations and opportunities to build wealth, right? To build wealth, because when we think of from a historical lens, Black folks have often been used to build wealth, but were never offered opportunities to have part of that wealth, right? So the work is really around intentional programming that allows for youth to build capacity. So in terms of payment, rent payment, so it is going to be a graduated scale where they have 3 years to move towards market rent. We are trying to get each young person to have the ability to pay up to 75% of market rent. Market rent is pegged at 1450 in theory. Um, we know that is really not what's happening right now, but that's kind of the threshold that we've identified. In terms of occupancy, this program will have the ability to house 5 youth. So we'll have 3 youth on the main floor of the house, and 2 youth in our basement apartment. The house itself is it's lovely. It is such a beautiful home. Lots of natural light, lots of space, multiple living areas for the youth to access, to thrive, to have space to maybe have friends over, to engage in homework or studies or whatever it is that they are wanting to engage in, but also opportunities to come together as suite mates, should they want to. The house itself is in Vaughan, and it is also really close to a major bus route, close to a major intersection, very close to other services. So, health services, schools, there's a high school close by, very, very easy access to York University, to the TTC bus services. To the subway line. So, just when we think of access, I think we've definitely hit the nail on the head with not just physical access, but access in terms of using the space to really feel like this is home. And this is a place that I can thrive. This is a place it's a soft place to land. There is intentional programming. It's not just rent. There are things that I can look forward to in terms of programming that builds my capacity as a Black person, as a human being, as a young adult, trying to move through this life.
And so people understand this is not an emergency shelter. This is semi-independent, right? Semi-independent
Yes,
living. So there's not a full-time 24-hour staff, because that's not real life either, right?
correct.
So you're teaching them those skills of independence, working through all the stuff you talked about. I love the 3 years. I've been a little vocal as of late around critical of transitional housing, why transitional housing works. It used to really drive me crazy that it was a year, especially for youth. Thinking I'm
Mhm.
18, now I'm 19. Where do I go? Because when you come from a place of trauma,
Mhm.
and years of instability. Really, a year's not. I love the 3 years around that, and everyone's housing journey is a little different too. And I would
Mhm.
think too that if two or three or a group of the living like we're great. I think we're actually gonna get a place together, right? We form this
Mhm.
little community family. Then why not, right? And that's some of the and that's the reality for youth too is getting your own place, as you
Yes.
mentioned with those rates. That's going to be a tough go, but if I form some bonds and can trust the people around me, maybe it is we're going to move out together for our kind of formative years
Mhm.
or teens and 20s, share accommodations. And I would guess too that the staff, let's face it, no matter who your roommates are, it can be challenging, right? We know that it's a relationship. Relationships are challenging. I think the staff help them work through what
Mhm.
happens when things do go a little sideways, right? When your
Yeah.
roommates, no matter what housing program you're in, when your roommate's a slob or over, you have disagreements or someone eats your
Yes.
food, that kind of stuff. You work through all that to try and do that
Yes.
conflict resolution, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very cool. What is the response been so far? So you bought the house. Is it ready to launch? Have you rolled it out? Are there 5 youth living in the house?
So not as yet. We are in doing some renovations. So that is we're that's taking a little time, but we
Yes, it
hope
does.
that
Yeah.
we will be, yes, and it is so out of so out of our control. But we're hoping that by the spring, that we will have our doors opened and ready to house 5 youth. I cannot wait. The space is going to be beautiful.
No doubt.
It is, I think it will really just echo so much of the intentionality that all of our housing programs in 360 Kids try to show, right? That standard of care
Mhm.
of like, you matter. Like, this is a place that I think any staff member or anybody from the community would want to live in, right? We really prioritize making sure that when the youth set foot on our properties, that they feel like, wow, like I get to live here. This is,
Nice.
I am worth
Yeah.
a beautiful space to be in. I am worth people who care about me, who are just wanting nothing more but than to offer me opportunities to thrive. And I think that is indicative of all of our housing programs across the
Yeah.
organization.
Well, you guys lead with dignity, right? As every human being should have a dignified place to live. And quite
Yes,
often, I think, talking about that good enough principle where people are like,
yes,
man on the floor, you're not going to die tonight. Good enough. Dust off.
mhm,
No. That's not dignified. We have to
yeah,
do better. And often,
yes,
listen, we're guilty of we run out of the coal, which is a wonderful life saving program, but it can't stop there. It's got to
Yeah.
go on to programs like
yes,
yours that are very
yes,
dignified and independent and really give
yes,
people that hope for
yes.
the future. Let's talk about hope. This is an incredible, groundbreaking, and soon to be impactful, very impactful program. What are your hopes for the future in the next couple of years? You come back next year, I hope you will, to talk about what's happening, what you've learned. What are your hopes?
I've got a lot of hopes. I mean, specific for this program, really, it's driven by preventing homelessness. So that's our hope. Far too many young people are dealing with the indignities, as we've talked about, of homelessness and the resulting trauma that comes. So that's really driving this. And particularly for this population of young people that's overrepresented. And so because there has been so little work done in this space, our other hope then would be to spur, catalyze, be an inspiration to others across the country. And we're already seeing more and more targeted housing for Black communities, which is awesome. So we feel great to be part of that. I think also that we we really want to see. I said in the beginning about the wraparound and the connection of young people to community, and so looking at how the Black community can really come together with us to support these young people to really make sure that this is grounded, and so just the work of the advisory group members who have been so fantastic in every aspect of this work. my hope is to see that more and more, where the Black youth, we're able to do a better job of connecting our Black youth with their culture in York Region, because it is, echoing your earlier comments around the vastness of York Region, it is really hard to build community. And so through this initiative, we're really hoping as well that we can build a community of a Black community for the youth, so that they don't feel that isolation and feel that alone. And then with that, we also know that many of the Black serving Black focus organization are often funded, and so hoping that through the working together, they can get some additional funding to do the work that we're asking them to do for us, because they're a lifeline for many in the Black community. And so to look at how we can develop strategies around how to ensure that those organizations remain solid in doing this work, because it is so critical. And so even conversations like we've been having around a York Region Black mental health strategy, to recognize the importance of adding that focus to the work that's already being done by the great work being done by so many in the mental health space, but also to look specifically around Black mental health, because there are some things, as Tahirah talked about, that are very specific when you're dealing with anti-Black racism and the trauma that comes with that, and sometimes the isolation when people don't believe that it still exists in Canada. And so just dealing with that is also, through working like this, being able to bring some of that research, some of that work into supporting the work that we do to better support us as an organization. Because with the overrepresentation of Black youth in our work, we also need to be agile in terms of our response as an organization, so that we can better support them and meet their needs. And so multi-pronged. I don't know, Tahirah, if you wanted to add anything to that, but those are some of my hopes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I care very much about our young people. My greatest hope is that they see this as an opportunity to grow, that it gives them time to grow, that it is a soft place for them to grow, and that when they leave us, that they not only have amassed financial capacities, but that their sense of self is more solid, that they feel that they're now connected to community, they're now connected to people and resources that can help them along their way in this journey of life. So I think, all of the other things are absolutely important, but for me, it's about the young people and just wanting to see them be well and do well. And because they're going to be the adults in a couple years, right? And they're going to be the ones running things. And I want them to be healthy, to be whole, to feel like they have something to contribute to our society, and that they believe in themselves, and they just have esteem to take them through life, because life can get hard.
Well, I've been thinking throughout the pod too, about the responsibility, that heavy responsibility for both of you as brilliant Black leaders on this work, and to develop, as you were saying, Tahirah, I love that, is that, hey, we're giving opportunity and access to the next gen, because we need to have more brilliant Black leaders in this space, in every space, but in this space, as we talked about this podcast, very much so. And so, I mean, that added, and I saw how Clovis said at the beginning, hey, it's personal to me as well, right? And that's incredible that you've taken that on, because that's an added kind of personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. And we're lucky to have you both doing this work. My thought too is that, I mean, for major impact too, this is something we want to take this model at some point, right? You would take this model and duplicate it,
Yeah.
across. There's no reason why not. This will work in Calgary, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or anywhere, where mostly across the country, where you'll see Black youth underserved, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, because we do know that in different municipalities across the country, the overrepresentation of Black individuals exists as well. And so whether it's a populace like City of Toronto, where it's more like 9-10% of the population, or places, that where it's 1-2%, I think the need makes it even greater, because the smaller the community, the more isolated these individuals are, and the more racism that could be encountered, because they are such a minority. So yeah, you're right. It could be in whatever community, but it's the principle of intentionality in recognizing that it requires a different solution, that because of some of the other factors that drive Black individuals to the streets.
Well, this is incredible work. So here's the question. So people want to find out more about the program, more about 360 Kids, or they want to reach out to you on socials or so on to just pick your brain or chat with you more. How can they do that?
Our website's awesome at 360kids.ca, and you could find out. You can find the research paper on that was completed on the project, and you could find the 20 plus programs and services that we deliver to young people through that website. And you can also find out how to reach Tahirah that way too.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're all over socials, right? Like 360, it does great work with their social media channels. So check them out there, and you can find these two wonderful individuals and chat with them. And you're right now, and this will be far past when this. You'll be past the prevention conference as well that is coming up. But by the time this airs, that will be long over. But you might see Clovis and Tahirah there as well.
We'll be there.
Wonderful. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. This is such a, I think you took that. If it's going to be, it's up to me. And you took an idea and you're making it happen, and you're making impact happen. And that is so cool and wonderful. And sadly rare too, where people take that jump and don't say someone else should do it. You're doing it. So thank you for that. Thank you for all you do. And thank you for all you do at 360 Kids, an incredible organization doing really impactful work. And thank you. You're both very busy. You got a lot going on always. So thanks for taking the time to join us on the show today. It's been wonderful.
And Mike, thank you for the
Thanks,
platform,
Mike.
opportunity
Thank
to
you.
share about this.
Well, you're both welcome back anytime. Can't wait to come back when you tell us and say, hey, we'd love to come back and talk about this, about some of what you've learned over the next year.
Sounds good.
Looking forward.
All right. We'll see you then.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
You're listening to On the Way Home with your host, Michael Braithwaite.